hope you enjoyed the article written by David Campbell and myself, Jaime Campbell, on 10 ways to avoid being hacked. And today I'm here to offer you some additional tips that are not included in the article on ways to avoid being hacked. And those tips fall into two general categories. One, computing in public, and two, some miscellaneous additional tips and tricks that you'll find very helpful. So regarding public computing, first of all, if you are using your own machine in public, be very wary when it comes to unsecured public Wi-Fi networks. So first of all, never enter any sensitive financial information into your computer while you're using a public network, especially the unsecured variety. I conduct no financial transactions or bring up no financial information when I'm on an unsecured network. And similarly to that, some networks look like legitimate networks and they're actually not. And here's one way you can tell the difference. Say you're staying in a hotel and you want to use the hotel's Wi-Fi, and that's lovely and it's easily accessible. Well, easily accessible to you is also easily accessible to a hacker. And you can look at that network and say, oh, this is great. I'm staying at, let's say, a Hilton, and here's the Wi-Fi network that says Hilton. Well, if you take the time to look more closely, you may see that it actually says H-I-T-L-O-N because another guest in a room a few floors away has actually created a spoof network. And while that network may look and feel like Hilton's network, it in fact is not. And the hacker now has information that you are entering in, and the hacker has access to your computer. So be very wary of public unsecured Wi-Fi networks. Now, if you're using a public machine, something to be aware of and something on which you can take action is to, first of all, log out. If you log into something, log out of it while you're using a public machine. Secondly, you should know in advance of using a public machine how to clear your cookies, delete your browsing history, and delete any passwords that may have been saved during your internet session. So I strongly suggest that you find out how to execute these commands in the most common browsers, Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, etc. And related to that, if you are in the habit of, when you're working on your own machine, on your own network, say back in your office, if you are already in the habit of not having the browser remember your password, I strongly recommend that you create that habit, because when you go out in public and use a public machine, you want to be in the habit of unchecking where it says remember this password. You never want your password remembered on a public machine. So those are my tips on computing in public. I also have a few miscellaneous tips for you on avoiding being hacked. One of them is to actually, instead of typing in a URL, go to a search engine first in your browser. So for example, Bing or Google, whatever search engine you might use, then type in the search field the name of the website that you'd like to visit, hit enter, let the search results come up, and then carefully click on the website of choice. Why, you say? Why should I be inconvenienced by going through this extra step? The answer is spoof websites. People do research on this stuff. The people who profit from hacking, they do scientific research and they determine the most common misspellings of popular websites, such as microsfot.com. That was an actual website that was up for a while. bankofamerica.com. It looks and feels like the website you expect. However, they are the most common misspellings. They're spoof websites. And guess who's receiving your password and your username and any other supposedly secure information? You're sending it straight to the hackers. So I'd strongly suggest using a search engine to visit websites rather than typing in the URL. Also, if you do any mobile computing, we're talking laptops, tablets, smartphones, any mobile computing, do have a way to wipe the entire machine remotely in case it gets lost. Don't forget, all of us, we're human beings subject to human error, and things happen. And you want to be in a position to avoid being hacked, and you want to make sure that if a hacker finds your machine, or someone finds your machine who then puts it in the hands of a hacker, you want that hacker to encounter a lovely piece of metal rather than to encounter access to your valuable and sensitive information. One tip for you that is a bit of a post-mortem if someone has been hacked. So if you have received an email from someone you know who it just seems like not their style of writing. Maybe you received an email, a direct message over Twitter, and it just doesn't seem like their style of writing, and on top of it all there's a link in the message. Okay, think before you click. And it is okay to reach out to that person independently and say, did you send me this message? I'll open it if it's from you. I'll click on the link if it's from you. It just didn't really seem like your style of communication. Believe me, in my experience, no one has ever been offended that I asked that question. And most of the time, they didn't actually generate that message. Most of the time, they've been hacked, and they're grateful to me for pointing it out to them so they can take corrective action.